What if the man blessed with the greatest strength the world had ever seen was also the man who felt the most unseen? What if the hands capable of tearing beasts apart could never grasp the peace they longed for? This is the story of a man marked before his first breath, separated for a divine purpose, feared by enemies and admired by his people, yet haunted by a hunger nothing on earth seemed able to satisfy. This is the life of Samson, his calling, his conflict, his collapse, and the mercy that waited for him at the very end. Long before Samson ever opened his eyes to the sun, his life began in silence and sorrow. In the small town of Zorah, nestled among rocky hills and dusty paths, there lived a woman whose name history barely remembers, but whose prayers shaped the fate of a nation. Year after year, she watched seasons change and children grow, while her own arms remained empty. Each month brought hope, and each month carried it away again. She smiled politely at celebrations, whispered blessings over newborns that were not hers, and returned home with a quiet ache that no one could see. At night, when the village slept and the wind moved softly through the fields, she spoke to God, sometimes with words, sometimes without them, often with tears. She asked not for greatness, not for honor, only for a child, someone to love, someone to raise, someone to pour her faith into. One evening, worn thin by disappointment, she walked alone beyond the houses, sank to the earth, and wept until she had nothing left to give. That was when the light appeared. It was not like fire and not like the sun. It was alive. From within it stepped a messenger of the Lord, terrible and beautiful, radiant with authority that made the ground itself feel holy. Fear seized her, and she pressed her face to the soil, unable to lift her eyes. "You have known barrenness," the voice said, calm and unshakable, "but you will conceive. You will bear a son. No blade shall ever touch his head, for he will belong to God from the moment he draws breath. Through him, deliverance will begin for Israel." For 40 years, the Philistines had crushed Israel under their rule. Crops were taken, worship was mocked, hope had thinned to a thread. And now, in a single moment, God answered two cries at once, the longing of a mother and the desperation of a people. When the child was born, she held him as if afraid he might vanish. She traced his tiny fingers, whispered prayers over his sleeping face, and named him Samson. From the beginning, there was something different about him. As he grew, strength came to him like breathing. Doors lifted easily. Stones that took 2 men to move yielded to his hands alone. But blessing does not always bring belonging. Other children kept their distance. Games ended when Samson joined them. What began as awe turned into unease. By the time he was old enough to notice, he was already alone. One evening, his mother found him sitting on a hillside, watching laughter from far away. "Why am I not like them?" he asked quietly. She took his hands others feared, and held them close. "You are not an accident," she said. "I prayed for you longer than you can imagine. Whatever happens, never forget this. You are an answer." For a while, that was enough. As a young man, Samson traveled toward the Philistine town of Timnah. The land smelled of wine and fruit, and the marketplace buzzed with voices unfamiliar and dangerous. That was where he saw her. Not just beautiful, but unafraid. When their eyes met, she did not look away. She smiled as though she saw more than his power. She saw him. Samson returned home and spoke with certainty he would marry her. His parents pleaded. She was not of their people. She belonged to the enemy. But Samson would not be moved. Beneath their arguments, God was already at work, turning desire into destiny. On the road to Timnah, walking alone among vineyards, a roar shattered the air. A lion burst forth, fierce and hungry. In that moment, the Spirit of the Lord surged through Samson. He caught the beast as it leapt, his hands forcing its jaws apart until life fled from it entirely. He stood trembling, not with fear, but with the weight of power he did not fully understand. He told no one. Later, passing the place again, he found bees nesting in the lion's remains. Honey filled the hollowed bones. He ate, unaware that sweetness drawn from death would echo far beyond that moment. At the wedding feast, surrounded by Philistine men assigned as companions, Samson posed a riddle, a playful challenge born of secrecy. Days passed, tension grew, and threats followed. His bride wept, pressed by fear, worn down by danger. At last he yielded, and the secret he surrendered became the first crack in everything he believed he had found. Betrayal came swiftly, rage followed. Samson struck the Philistines, paid the wager in blood, and left without a word. While he was gone, the woman he loved was given to another. When Samson returned, bearing a gift and fragile hope, the truth struck him like a blade. Anger ignited, fire followed, fields burned, livelihoods vanished, and in retaliation, the Philistines destroyed the woman and her father. Grief hardened into fury. Samson struck without mercy, then fled into solitude, hiding in a cave with nothing but memories and regret. When the Philistines demanded his capture, his own people bound him. He offered no resistance. Perhaps he was tired of fighting. But when the spirit moved again, ropes snapped, enemies fell, and victory was won with the simplest of weapons. Yet even triumph left him empty. Years passed, his name became legend, his loneliness remained. Then came Delilah. She listened, she touched scars no one had ever asked about, and when the Philistine rulers offered silver for his secret, she agreed. Night after night she asked, he lied, she tested, he escaped, until love or the need for it wore him down. When he told her the truth, he surrendered more than words, he surrendered himself. The blade fell, strength vanished, darkness came. Blind and bound, Samson was led away, mocked, broken, grinding grain like an animal. But in the silence, something began to grow again, his hair, and with it, a memory of who he once was. When the Philistines gathered to celebrate, they brought him out for sport. Led by a boy's hand, Samson felt the pillars beneath his palms, and in that place of humiliation, he prayed, not for life, not for escape, but for one final act of obedience. Strength returned. Stone shattered, the temple fell, and in his death, Samson fulfilled his calling more completely than he ever had in life. They buried him among his people, a man of contradiction, a vessel of power and pain, a reminder that even when we lose our way, even when our strength fails, God does not forget. One prayer was enough, and it still is. If this story spoke to your heart, help us share it with the world. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our biblical animated stories. Give this video a like. It truly helps us continue creating meaningful, faith-filled content. Share it with someone who may need hope or encouragement today. And leave a comment telling us which part of the story moved you the most or what lesson stayed with you. Your support is more than a click. It's a way to spread faith, truth, and inspiration to others. Thank you for being part of this community.